everyone, and welcome to the Mack Flash 5, the show where we like to discuss our top 5 favorite movies fitting a certain genre or topic, such and such, and other things. My name is Matt. I am here with AB. He is here with Scott.
What's up?
All here with Brittany, who is our.
Hi.
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm good. What was the last episode you were on?
We did Hitman
Hitman?
and
Yeah.
Assassins.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Just like Hitmen and Assassins, Brittany picked our topic for today, which is films with an isolated protagonist. Now, the very vague description of that is probably like someone stuck on a deserted island. That was the first one that came to mind when that came up, of course. But it could have a variety of meanings, which I'm sure we will all have different definitions of as we go through our lists, and I'm very excited for it. Mine is pretty much standard, they're stuck somewhere type movies. But Brittany, you picked this list. Tell us why. And you're gonna start, but tell us why you picked this.
I think the inspiration is pretty obvious. I think that what we all went through globally in the last year and a half, which is a very sort of like isolated phase of all of our lives, whether we ended up having to like work from home or like change the way that we work in the outside world. It was a very isolating experience, and it was different for all of us. And I feel like at that time, about 4 months into the pandemic, I was just like relating to, not necessarily relating to plot lines, but starting to think of certain like plot lines from some favorite movies that resonate in a different way. Now that you know what it's like to kind of like be stuck in your own home, in a sense.
The first few movies for a lot of people were Contagion and Outbreak. Those ones dominated Netflix and different streaming services at first, and then we got into the cabin fever type films after that.
Oh, cabin fever.
Yeah, I think one of the films that really ignited it for me was like watching Parasite. Yeah, that certainly got the list going in terms of what it's like to be isolated in a film and like the different levels. Anyways, I guess we should go into it. Parasite's not one of my picks. It's just one of the things that got me thinking about it.
Let's just remind everybody how the show works. After we pick a topic, we all go our separate ways and then come back with a list of 5 movies, 3 of which we will talk about in depth, and we have 2 honorable mentions each, totaling our top 5. Britt, it's your topic. You will give us your number 3.
My number 3, right off the top, I guess it's going to reveal the theme that I have going, because like we sort of have gone over already, it's a bit of a broad spectrum, the way that one can be isolated, and I really went for a certain end of it, not the lonely end, that's for sure. How do I get to my screen here? Okay.
I can add it if you.
Yeah, go ahead and add it. My number 3. I actually was just watching it before we started the show because I needed to recap. I remember this film left a really awesome impression on me when I first saw it. It's After Hours from 1985, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Griffin Dunne, Rosanna Arquette, Linda Fiorentino, Catherine O'Hara, who is one of my favorite roles in this film, and Terry Garr. There's other characters in the film. I just thought that, like, most notably, the women in the film really tend to, I'm going to say it, like, they tend to, like, really hold up the plot and, like, really hold this guy back from what he needs to do. So, essentially, getting to the isolation, this film is more on like the stranded side of isolation. It's about this word processor who works in New York City who decides to meet up with this girl who he meets like in a cafe in Soho, which is not the most ideal place, I guess, to be stuck in the middle of the night in New York City. And you get to learn why. And after kind of having this awkward interaction on this date with this girl, he decides that like he just needs to get home, but he can't seem to get out of Soho. He lost his last $20 out the window of a windy cab ride, which is pretty hilarious. I should add, it is a dark comedy. It's hilarious. And it's very insufferable, I'd like to call it. You kind of like, you're with him in the sense that you really just, you're rooting for him to he just wants to get home and get to bed so he can go to work the next day. But the people in this neighborhood just won't seem to like let him leave. And because he is essentially, he's penniless, or, you know, he doesn't have enough money to get in a cab or on the subway to like get home. So he has to like rely on the kindness of strangers in a sense. And he can't really do that because everybody's so worked up and focused on, you know, their own things and their own world and what they need to do. And like, he's very not good at socializing with these people or getting what he needs from them. And it's just really hilarious to watch him struggle. The scene that he does with Catherine O'Hara, where he just needs to use her phone. He just needs to borrow her phone so that he can call someone to get somewhere. And he literally she's just talking so much and just literally sucking all of the air out of the room as she does in the most hilarious way possible. And it's severely isolating. Like, you feel bad for this guy. Like, he's just in this neighborhood with all of these people that just won't let him go. And he can't get out. Like, he's alone. He just wants to go home. And I don't want to spoil it.
The ending scene with the paper mache like makes my skin crawl. It's so
amazing.
It's so like, especially when it happens to him.
Fantastic image. Yeah, because I mean, like, if I might go back a little bit, you know, there's like the foreshadowing of like this paper mache man that Linda is working on. I can't remember her character's name. Eventually I think it like falls on him or something. You know, eventually he becomes the paper mache man.
She
Well,
has to disguise him to hide from like the racists.
From hide it. Yeah, he has to disguise. She does all it is to hide them from the people that are chasing him.
That's right. Yes, because there's a burglar in the neighborhood and everybody thinks that it's him, so they're after him. And I don't want to reveal like everything, but it's a lot more about the dialogue and it's a lot more about his personal struggle to just like get the heck out of there and like not interact with it's so weird because as much as he tries not to interact with everybody, the more they want to interact with him and the more he gets sucked into the neighborhood, and it just it really sucks for him.
And everything is connected too. There's everything like everyone he meets has a connection to something that happened before. Like the bartender by John Hurd has a major connection to the girl he meets, Rosanna Arquette. And so when you find out that connection, you're like, oh.
And then his apartment and how his apartment comes back and who he meets there and how that goes to the story. Yeah, no doubt. I watched this after he had it on his list, so I had seen it in parts. So
I was trying to
remember. This is a movie I watched last summer too.
I was trying to
under one night.
One night movies.
So I watched this movie back in September as well too. So kind of fitting for the last year.
It's a great choice. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite Scorsese movies. It's really funny, and like I said during that episode, I love gritty like 80s New York where like the streets are dangerous.
The cocaine Bronx, man.
Yeah, the streets are still dangerous. There's no Starbucks.
Summer Sam too.
Stuff around. It's shady. It's shady on the streets.
That's part of the fun. That's actually all of the fun of like recapping it. And like it's very 80s, but then it's very, like the retro throwbacks and the diners are very like 50s. At the time.
What's the one lady's name that he meets, and she's very much a 50s throwback. The one he meets after
Terry Garr. I can't remember
Terry Garr. There you go.
Yeah, Terry Garr's in there. Yeah, and everybody is just, especially her, they're just so needy that they literally there's no time to focus on getting him out of the neighborhood. They really could care less. And honestly, like when you think about it, like going back and like watching the movie a second time, like they really do have bigger fish to fry than this guy who just needs to get out of town, who can just, you know, apart from being the suspected burglar of the neighborhood, he could have just walked home. Like if you've ever been to New York City and if you're on the island, like you can, it's unsafe, but you can walk the stretch. You can make it there without a cab.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good pick.
Well, since it made AB's list once and it made Brittany's list now, I'm gonna have to watch this movie.
Especially because you own it too. It's behind you.
Own it.
I'm like, come on, Matt.
I own it. It's on my shelf behind my screen here, still wrapped in plastic.
Ugh.
Unwrap it.
I think I bought it 4 years ago.
This is a sign you need to watch that.
But after saying all that, we'll move on to my number 3. My number 3, I went with an obvious one. We talked earlier off camera about how some of our lists could have had major themes across it. And when the topic of isolated movies came up, I was like, okay, well, there's this, and this. And as I was going through it, I was like, okay, these are very much just like Lost in Space type movies, because I had like Gravity or Apollo 13 on that list. And I mean, obviously, a topic of love of mine is the space program. But I went with, for my number 3, The Martian.
Yeah.
Matt Damon is an astronaut. Him and his team are on Mars. A windstorm is about to come take out their home base there. Captain Jessica Chastain says, we have to leave the planet. Everybody rushes to the ship. A piece of debris hits Matt Damon. They figure he's dead, and they take off and make their way back to Earth. He wakes up with a rod sticking out of his stomach. He stitches himself up, gets into the pod, and starts his video diary of, there's a good chance I'm going to die here, but it's very much a NASA and astronaut thing to always keep talking and logging and never stop. I mean, I guess it's part of like keeping your sanity in cases like that. But so in doing so, he's decided, I'm not going to die on this planet. I'm going to do my best to stay alive until the next mission reaches Mars, and hopefully I'll have made myself known and alive, and when they show up, I can hitch a ride back to Earth in like 2 years or something like that. As far as movies about the space program are concerned, it's one of my favorites. As soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, perfect. And then when I saw the movie, it was one of the, I don't call it one of the more, one of the more entertaining movies about the space program.
Eminently entertaining. It's unbelievable. Yes. It makes it look so cool.
It is hilarious and has an all disco soundtrack.
It's true.
Which is, used to juxtapose against every single scene almost. And one of my favorite scenes is when he reaches the rendezvous point and he has to strip down the existing rocket to pretty much just bare minimum just to get him off the planet, to ABBA's Waterloo. One of my favorite scenes of all time. And because of the slight humor in the movie and its awesome soundtrack, it won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Music.
Comedy, and Ridley Scott hated that too.
Of course he did.
I'm pretty sure we've all seen it, but it's got a great cast as well. Like, as if now that I'm thinking, if anyone chose the topic, like the other one it would fit is Best Movies with an ensemble cast.
It's great. Because all his people are people like in his crew, and the people on NASA are huge names.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels, Kristen Wiig, Donald Glover. The crew is made up of Jessica Chastain, Michael Pena, Kate Mara, Sebastian Stan. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think those are the main ones for sure. Oh, and Chiwetel Ejiofor,
Ejiofor,
and Mackenzie. What's her name?
Mackenzie Davis.
Mackenzie Davis is also part of the NASA team. So The Martian, my number 3.
Good pick. I agree.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's one of the most entertaining stranded films too. It takes like what Castaway did and like acknowledges it and like twists it, and then you have Matt Damon and like the only one. The rewatchables of this is great because it talks about who else could have played the part, but really there was nobody who could nail like the smart and the comedy.
Yeah,
like Matt Damon was perfect for that, and that was like a hit he needed at that time, and that ended up being a huge movie based on a huge book. So that's a great enjoyable one.
And then what was next? The Great Wall?
No. In theaters though too.
You use that cloud and just threw it all away. Sometimes you gotta make the art movie, the next movie. Sometimes you gotta make reindeer games.
That's right.
So all right, when I started doing this list, surprise, guess what direction I went? You know me, horror. You're like Isolated Protagonist. That's like horror bread and butter. Like you're gonna find a person who is trapped in a horror movie. That's literally like 90% of horror movies. So I started to go a certain route, and I didn't really connect things until pretty recently, which is ridiculous considering. But my number 3 is a dream team of filmmakers. So you have Barry Sonnenfeld as the cinematographer. You have the screenplay written by William Goldman. You have produced and directed by Mr. Rob Reiner. Written by a book written by Mr. Stephen King, and that is 1990's Misery, starring James Caan and Kathy Bates. This is, for my money, this is one of the absolute best Stephen King adaptations. There are, a couple. There's the farmhouse. So this is the isolated location. This is her Kathy Bates' farmhouse. Annie Wilkes, and she is Paul Sheldon's number 1 fan, and Paul Sheldon is a novelist who writes about a character named Misery Chastain. And so Paul gets into a horrible car accident, and Annie saves him, brings her to his house, and not pretends, but nurses him back to health. But then things take a turn. As you can see, he's strapped down to the bed, and it even takes more of a turn when she reads his new book and finds out what happens to her character, her favorite character. And so she basically gets him to do what most fanboys want, which is have a rewrite. I want a rewrite. I demand a rewrite. And so she gets him to do the rewrite, which is a great scene of him. He starts out it reluctantly, and he gets into it. And so like he's actually writing another novel, and he gets down into it. And so all the while he's trying to escape. And so she catches him escaping, and there's the infamous hobbling scene. And so it's a two-piece between the two of them. There's Richard Farnsworth, there's the sheriff, but for all intents and purposes, it's basically the two of them for most of the scenes in that bedroom. And it's just fantastic. And Kathy Bates won the Oscar for her performance, and rightfully so. And this was basically, she had been in a bunch of movies before this, but this is her big moment, and she shined in it. She was amazing. Just some trivia on who was supposed to be cast in it. We have the rewatchables. Who was originally going to be cast. There's literally went for this long of people that, I'm just going to go with the Cole's notes of people that were potentially cast as in the Paul Sheldon roles. You had William Hurt, who they approached twice for it. You had Kevin Kline, Michael Douglas, Harrison Ford, Hoffman.
Slow down. No.
You had Dreyfuss, you had Beatty, Robert Redford, you had Pacino, De Niro, and the list goes on and on. Those are the big ones.
James Caan was the only guy who picked up.
Imagine
and to his
Pacino.
credit, I don't like, that's the thing. Like, so
he wouldn't have been there for that long.
There's a few other good names in it. Dreyfuss is good. You need it. Yeah, Dreyfuss is good. Khan gives you a little bit of the edge that can match like her intensity. You don't want him to be a bit of a pushover, so it is. And I
like that. It's a stretch for him too, because he's lost that control, right? He's more about the fire. He's about his characters are more about the the fiery, like, hothead, and you kind of get that in here a little bit, but most of the time he's completely,
when he makes the switch, when he makes the switch to James Caan.
No control. Yeah, it's fantastic. Like I said, one of the top Stephen King adaptations. The only real major difference, and I think it actually works better in the book, she actually takes an axe and hacks off his feet, and so they decided, they're like, okay, that's a little too hardcore, and so they went with the hobbling, which I think for me it makes a way more unique scene, right? Because you get the she talks about the story of how would they get the workers to continue working, but then they couldn't escape, and so then she puts the wood block between his legs. It's a very unique scene. It's iconic. Whereas if she just hacks his feet off with an axe, I mean, we've seen that a million times in a million different horror movies. So I think that's one of the great changes that they made to the original work. But anyway, that's my number 3. And so as you can see, there was snow on the ground there. We will see that again in future picks. Yes, so that is my number 3.
That's another good one. I wanted to put 3. I wanted to put on my list. I'm glad it's on yours. And it's funny you mentioned the snow, because the snow and the weather plays such a character in that film too. Like it is kind of 3 characters when you think of it, because the snow, and it feels so cold as well too. Like that would be a good movie. Like, how I talked about when we saw Silence of the Lambs, and the roof of my Jeep was off and it was kind of chilly, so it added to the aesthetic. That would be good to do that at a drive-in in the winter for Misery. Like you would feel the cold, which is what the movie wants you to feel too.
Well, totally. And like the whole time you're thinking too, if he escapes, like if he gets out of there, how, like, and he's still messed up, like he's got to like get somewhere in the middle of winter in the cold, like on, like, this is even before the hobbling, right? His legs are still messed up, so like he's gonna have to get somewhere in the middle of the cold, so it's gonna be a tough go even if he gets out of the house. So yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay, bringing it down here, my number 3. So when we talked about movies that fit the motif of what isolation is, and wanting to go outside, and perhaps there's nobody there, perhaps nothing's happening, or perhaps you're stuck in the room that you're in, and where my mind goes, guys. Immediately, one of the first films I thought of had to include it. Couldn't do a list without 1954's Rear Window, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. So in this is his second turn with Jimmy Stewart after Rope. They reunite for this with Grace Kelly, Raymond Burr, and in it, Jimmy Stewart plays L.B. Jeffries, who is a war photographer and loves to travel, explore the world, and he has a broken leg, and he is stuck in his Manhattan apartment with nothing to do but listen to the radio or to peer outside and voyeur on his neighbors in his little apartment complex. And in it, he gives to his girlfriend a story on each character. He makes up what their backstories are. He gives them interesting, like, soap opera lives, and tries to connect the dots of what's happening when he sees, people go from one room to the other, and are they having a torrid love affair or what? So as it goes, and he's got a very cynical outlook of it, but as the story progresses, he thinks he witnesses a murder. So he's starting to really hone in on one gentleman in there, played by Raymond Burr, and as he starts to kind of integrate himself to be a detective. He has a friend who's a detective, but he's a war correspondent, and he's done this, and he's going to figure it out. So as the movie goes on, it becomes a really nice cat and mouse game of sorts. And then how Grace Kelly, who is one of the most all-time beautiful women in film, especially in this, interjects herself into it, and she becomes cat/mouse in it as well too. And it's just, again, it's all shot in the one location, and it's all just LB Jeffrey's apartment. So for that, that's what we were feeling, the isolation, that, looking out the window, maybe seeing some of our neighbors look back at us. And as I did for a previous episode with Cape Fear, I will talk about the inspiration it had on a very popular Simpsons episode, the season 6 premiere called Bart of Darkness, where Bart breaks his leg, and there is a direct homage to this film in it. As he peers through, he sees Jimmy Stewart's character looking back at him when he suspects his neighbor Flanders of being a murderer. You find out exactly what he murdered in that, as well as there was a very modern retelling of this film, very loosely based on it, with Shia LaBeouf, Disturbia. And that was even a really enjoyable film as well, too, because he was under house arrest and he suspects David Morse of being a murderer. So for that and the effect it had on film, my number 3 is 1954's Rear Window.
Scott is acting his revenge clause against me based on the Michael Jackson episode we did, where I virtually we had such similar lists, but I got to go first. So I got to do Party Man and Purple Rain and hit all of the notes he was going to hit after I would have spoken.
Is it your 2?
It is absolutely, it's not my 2. It's absolutely on my list.
Okay.
And you hit a lot. You hit everything, almost everything I was going to talk about.
Guy. Like, what did you expect?
I will talk about, though, the set, because when I watched this for the first time 5 years ago, I think I watched it 3 times in a row.
Whoa!
Because it's not a very long movie to begin with, but I put it on and loved it. And it has like 2. I think it has 2 different commentaries. So I was like, okay, so I'll watch it again, and then I'll watch it again. Specifically because I wanted to hear and read about and learn everything I could about the set. So James Stewart is on like the balcony of his apartment. The back of the apartment looks out into like a courtyard with like 3 or 4 other buildings around it. All of those apartments were like working apartments. They had electricity and water and working plumbing. And even further out into the street, you could look across the street through like a sliver between buildings. There's a bar, and that bar was almost pretty much active and usable as a bar. One of the characters, at a certain point, Grace Kelly exits Jeffrey's apartment, climbs down like his fire escape, walks across the courtyard, goes into the building adjacent into Raymond Burr's apartment, all in like one shot, because it's all built specifically to do that. And you can walk, like I said, further to the point that you're almost across the street and you can walk into a bar. Production design wise, I don't think I've seen, it's debatable if you've seen something better than that, but for my mind, and Hitchcock was famously like against shooting on location. So for him, it was an absolute dream to have everything he could absolutely want inside a soundstage.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the things he's known for, is going all out. We think about the modern equivalent of that as Fincher, right? And like taking those steps, and you can see a lot of the similarities between Fincher and Hitchcock, and like going for accuracy and going all out when filming. So he's definitely brilliant.
With that, Britt, you're number 2.
Okay. Yeah. I got a little distracted. What you just said reminded me of Synecdoche, New York, which is like a whole world in its own. But it's about like a director, more like I think it's theater side, but like he builds an entire city block as a set. Yeah. Essentially, yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, you got to have a lot of props for, as in respect for the set decoration, set designers, and all those like functional parts. I love it. Number 2. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I have The Truman Show.
Terrific.
From 1998.
Yeah. All right, you're hitting
Peter
all
Weir.
the AB bases right now.
Oh, great.
This is great. Yeah, this is great. I love this.
I don't know. Yeah, I like I said, I was going through my long list, and things like The Martian were on there for sure. But I certainly wanted to lean towards, I don't know, those people who tend to just the characters who tend to just be isolated, just literally in the middle of their life. I don't know how to describe it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a social situation and they just can't trust or rely on the people around them, you know? So in this case, Truman Burbank was I believe an orphaned baby who was purchased or adopted.
I mean, adopted by a corporation.
Thinking about it, you know, yeah, like adopted by like a corporation, which was like a movie studio or a television studio.
Yep.
And he is essentially raised from birth until adulthood on television without knowing that the people around him were sort of like cast to be part of his life and drive the plot forward, but aren't necessarily his relatives or people of his own choosing necessarily. So yeah, he catches on to this in a couple different phases of his life, but more so, you know, I'm gonna guess he's like in his mid-30s when he starts to, you know, kind of figure out that he probably wants to like go somewhere else in the world, and he's starting to actually feel like the place that he grew up in and is so familiar and is so safe to him is actually starting to feel like sort of a prison. Like it's a place that's much like in the After Hours. It's sort of like a place where it's trying to keep him there, and he can sense that. He doesn't necessarily know that he's on TV, and he doesn't necessarily know that everybody around him is fake. He just has a sense that it is a bit of a show that's being put on by, like, it's revolving around him, and he knows that like there's an unnatural feeling about that. Anyways, the next point I just want to point out is just the framing of the movie that kind of really reasserts the isolation with like the sort of like webcam spy cam style of these wide lenses that he looks directly into. It's just sort of like the camera is constantly just trying to keep him in the frame, with cameras just planted all over town and in people's things. Just I don't want to spoil the end completely.
Okay.
Well, then don't use that.
Sure.
slide.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But eventually he figures out that everybody around him is like, he figures out that he's right about a few things. Like everybody around him is phony. Nobody really cares about anything other than what's going on like right in the moment, and he really wants to like go out and explore things. And like, you don't really get to see what happens with Truman in the very, very end, because after he exits the set, how do I get back to you guys? Sorry, I'm still learning how to do this. That's it. Cameras are off. He's gone, and he's no longer isolated. I spoiled it. But yeah, you know,
people haven't seen Truman Show. They deserve that.
They can watch
They
this.
they deserve that.
Britt, that's a great choice. It's a wonderful choice, and you can tell your brother that he can stop crying when somebody takes something they have higher on their list later.
Did you pick the Truman Show too? Is that
I have no idea.
Oh,
you'll have to wait and see.
I know. I tried to stay away
wonderful
from
choice
that we were all picked together, but I
did.
think that I don't know. Like in this day and age, it's so weird because like in this day and age, we're still not even there yet. This kind of storyline is much more of it's a comedy, but it's along the lines of like a Black Mirror episode rather than like a because we're very familiar with reality TV, which is where people who already exist and have established themselves like sign a contract and they sign up and they get paid for it. You know what I mean? Versus this fully, I guess, a whole nother scale. Like we were just talking about it, the whole another scale of like a full on city that has a moat around it built on a TV set, like so freaking huge.
Yeah.
And I just, it makes me curious, like if we will ever get, I doubt that like we're going to be doing it without people knowing, but it's just, you know what I mean? Like putting people in the whole Big Brother situation, which like, you know, Big Brother aired on TV about like 2 years later, about the whole idea of like people being watched and like never really crossing the line of, I feel like this is going somewhere weird.
Nice.
But
lovely movie.
So I'm gonna cut it there. Yeah, I'm gonna cut it there. Lovely movie, Truman Show, starring Jim Carrey. You should see it if you have not seen it. It doesn't make you feel lonely at all. You're really rooting for him.
It was talked about in one of our more recent episodes. I think it was one of AB's movies when he turned 21. It was his number one.
My number one movie when I turned 21. Yeah, it's it's a fan. When I talked about it then, it was like when I came out of the theater, was not the same. It was one of those films where like I came out a different person after watching that film, and because it had that. It's one of those movies that like changed my changed my perspective on life and on it was that big of a movie for me. So
and I think in that episode we had our own theories about what Truman did after he left he left the set there.
So watch our episode of Mac Flash at 21.
Yeah, can you do that? Can you do like the little link box where you just like pop up?
Yeah, we'll just say it's
episodes, or you can just put it in the comment in the info below. You'll find
that's
one
true.
of these episodes that we're referring to right there.
It's just a few videos down from here.
All right, Matt.
Oh, there.
Yeah, Matt, what's your second?
First, a little correction. I think I said I was stepping all over Scott's list in our Michael Jackson list. That is incorrect. It was our Prince list.
Prince, yeah.
I had Michael Jackson on.
We went back and forth on Dirty Diana though, but the Prince one was.
Oh, that's right. That was another one. That's right. That's the benefit of being in the top square here. I get to talk first.
top biller. You get top biller.
I'm Gary Sinise.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Gary Sinise, he is not in this movie. My number two, when I saw it, I don't want to say it was emotional. It was I'll just get to it. It is a very good movie. And it's hard to describe how I felt after. Anyways, my number two is, come on, Room.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Big time.
The perfect example of an isolation movie.
Yeah.
Starring Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay. And I don't know who played the guy. I'm sure it doesn't really matter, but the guy who's keeping them captive.
He was sufficiently creepy. That's for sure.
Yes, that's true, to say the least. Brie Larson is a mid-20s mother of Jacob Tremblay, and she was kidnapped when she was a teenager and held in this what looks like something a little bit bigger than a garden shed outside this guy's house. He would come home every day, get into bed with her, and sleep in there together. Meanwhile, obviously impregnating her, she delivers a baby and has to raise him in what I don't know what other word to call it except shed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the movie, it's called Room. They call the place Room, and that's where the title
makes sense because they can only see the inside.
Right. Now, for the first third of the movie, in the first act, it takes place all within the room, and it appears to be much larger than it actually looks. It's got enough space for a bed, a TV, a kitchenette, a hot plate, and a bathtub, and I think a closet, because that's where the kid sleeps at night, so he's away from the creepy guy. Eventually, Joy, Brie Larson's character Joy, decides she's had enough. I mean, I'm sure she's had enough for a long time, but she finally comes up with a plan for escape. She, with the help of her son, fakes his death, and when the guy shows up, he says he had, like, they have one scene earlier where he has a fever, and then he comes back and she's like, and she starts bawling, he died. You have to take his body away and bury him somewhere nice. They roll him up in a carpet. He throws him in the back of the truck. Tremblay escapes, jumps off the back of the truck, manages to flag down a cop, a police car, is able to describe where he was held captive, where his mother is, and they rescue her and arrest the guy. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he gets arrested, if not killed. Anyway, he's taken care of. You don't see him for the rest of the movie.
I'm glad that you told me,
because I don't know if he's killed, because don't they like talk about him possibly going to visit him because that's his dad at some point? I don't remember that. But
anyways, after they've left room, they have to cope, especially what is it? I'm going to just keep calling Jacob Tremblay. Jack Newsom, especially Jack, have to cope with life on the outside. He's known nothing else except life in the room. And it's difficult for both of them, and especially for Joy, who in one of the best scenes, especially for a Jacob Tremblay performance, he finds her in the bathroom and she's attempted suicide. Mm-hmm. And it is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's rough.
She recovers, though. She's, under a lot of pressure from like tabloids and news reporters. They all want to hear her story. Eventually, they come together, and their relationship is strong. And at the end of the movie, they go back to visit Room. He wants to go see Room. Jack wants to go see Room for one last time, and this is the moment he gets to see it for what it really is. Because, I mean, the interior shots of them, exercising and playing and having as much fun as they can inside the room is obviously done in a moderately sized studio or stage. Mm-hmm. And then they go back and it's just, like I said, a garden shed. And he asked his mom, did it shrink?
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is the size. And you're just, the whole movie. And this is one of the best things I loved about the whole movie. It's virtually shot from his height level. The camera is never comes above like 4 feet high. Mm-hmm. It's all his point of view the whole time. And I'm pretty sure he got nominated for an Oscar for this. He didn't win. Brie Larson won. And I've told everybody I said, I see when I talk about it, it's like, she was not my pick. If it was a supporting nomination, she definitely should have won. But the movie was really about Jacob Tremblay's performance as Jack. Mm-hmm. I thought he should have walked away with a statue for sure. Anyways, my number 2 is Room.
Yeah, that was definitely one that was a gut shot when I saw it in theater. I saw it basically leading up to the Oscars because it was getting Oscar buzz, so I went to see it. And I definitely left the theater like, holy crap, that was crazy. Like, definitely like nothing I've seen before, basically.
And he was not nominated. It was nominated for picture, director, actress, and screenplay. Brie Larson is the only one who won out of those 4.
Interesting.
I'm glad that you told me everything that happens, because that plot makes me so uncomfortable. I'll probably never see that in real life. And this is the thing. Is like it's not something I haven't seen before in like an episode of Law and Order, or and that's because it's not an uncommon thing that happens in.
You just don't see it from that perspective.
North America, it happens a lot, and it's just one of those things that you don't hear about because not everybody gets away. Yeah. So just gives me the creeps.
as it should.
Like this is just the story of like, yeah, the person that got away, but like, it's a common thing to happen. Ugh, I don't like it. So thanks for sharing.
Bring us to the lighter side, AB.
We are not going to the lighter side. I told you already. We're staying right in the horror realm. And for this list, I was like, okay, I got a bunch I could throw on here, and save the rest of these for things. But no, I'm going big. I'm going big for this list, and I'm going really big for this list. One of the biggest directors ever. Starring from one of the biggest writers ever, starring one of the biggest actors ever, 1980s, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
That's great.
Starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, and Danny Lloyd. I mean, what can you possibly say about this movie? I mean, you can go on and on about this movie. This movie's been dissected over and over again. There's tons of brilliant documentaries, including, if you haven't seen it, Room 237, which is all about the nuts who like have all these like crazy theories about the movie, and it is incredible to watch. It is incredible to watch all the things, and fascinating to see all the different like things. And like we've said about Hitchcock, which is done by Kubrick collaborator Wendy Carlos, who worked on a couple of his other films, including Clockwork Orange. And the music just makes it just so fills with dread every time this music comes on, and he also has some classical pieces in there. Just fantastic. This is, of course, the Overlook Hotel, which is the isolated location, which you can, I think you can still visit it, and I'm pretty sure it is in, like Misery, also set in Colorado. Stephen King loves either Maine, of course, Castle Rock, or he likes to set his other things in Colorado. He based this off of an experience he had on vacation one time, and so and just being trapped in basically a snow setting, and so he based that, and people had the idea of people going nuts in an isolated location. Of course, it has the iconic shots, the Grady twins, Danny riding his big wheel, and watching this as a kid, having big wheels and all that stuff, it's terrifying. You have the shots of the blood coming out of the elevator. It's perfect Kubrick. It is one of the greatest horror, if not the greatest. It is one of the greatest horror movies. Full stop. Like it is a perfect film. It is not a perfect adaptation of a novel, as Stephen King will tell you, but from a film perspective, it is fantastic. The only drawback, as people always bring, is Shelley Duvall is like really like distracting in this, and I won't even give her much airtime on it. She is one of
she was treated horribly by everyone.
Distracting.
Like she is like, her performance is out. She's
there. Cartoonish.
Yeah.
And like I get it. They want to go, like, she wanted to go for like the hysterical like victim and everything, but like she is going for it. So to me, I mean, you've got some great performances by Scatman Crothers and even Danny Lloyd as Danny in there. Which, see, what they got wrong was they had Jack Nicholson playing Jack Torrance. You had Danny Lloyd playing Danny Torrance. They needed to hire someone named Wendy to play Wendy Torrance. That's where they went wrong. They chose somebody named Shelley to play Wendy. So anyway, yeah.
They should have got Tony to play Tony.
Yeah,
I have a comment.
No, The Shining. I could literally go on and on about it, but it has been talked about forever, and it will be talked about forever because it is that good of a movie and that great of a film. One of Kubrick's finest. And so, like I said, that's my number 2, guys. I went big. There's only one bigger than that for me. And again, had lots of snow involved, and the snow plays heavily.
Awesome.
In the end of that film, with Jack, that's one of the major differences between the film and the book. Jack freezes to death at the end of the movie, but in the book he burns the hotel down, which is corrected in the sequel, Dr. Sleep, which is amazing, which is one of the amazing things about the movie film Dr. Sleep, is that he basically course corrected and combined the film and the novel to make the ending of Dr. Sleep, which is, man, for my money, amazing. Anyway.
Great. I watch it's funny, the recycling we've on previous lists, and we're over a year now doing this. I had it on my movies you watch around Halloween. I watch it almost every October. I love it. It's not a Halloween film in any way. It's a different kind of horror film, but I always like to kick off my fall and winter season. I think it's the perfect vibe for that.
Oh, hell yeah.
About Shelley Duvall, but also, like, I don't know. I've seen The Shining a few times, but the first time I remember specifically, I saw it through the movie Twister. It's like, yeah. So like, there's a combination of like them watching like this suspenseful like scene where like he's literally axing through the door at the time, and like the tornado coming.
Yep.
I can't remember. Is it happening at the same time?
Yeah, it's at a drive-through or a drive-in.
And I'd never seen The Shining, so I was just like, "What is going on?" I was okay for like the disaster movie, but like to have like the horror movie kind of like packed in.
Yeah.
It didn't. It threw me off. It definitely like creeped me out. And I remember specifically her face, and I get how you're saying like it's cartoony, but it's just as iconic as him sticking his face through the hole. But also like, just to note, like we have all seen this, like the behind the scenes clips of Kubrick like berating her and like getting her to act that way, right? Like, so it's like
that's fair too.
You get what you get.
Yeah.
But also,
I will say the scene where she first figures out that things are not great when she finds the typewriter and finds basically the novel of all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. She's great in that. Like that whole scene of her like coming to term, like realizing, oh shit, like things are not going great right now. That scene is great, and she's really good in that. So
I'd compare that to like, I don't know, it makes me think of like Toni Collette and like Hereditary, where it's just like very like those moments where it's just like, I'm frozen, and how do I look really scared at the same time? Anyways, okay, yeah.
Speaking about actors getting ready in that movie, if you grab your Shining Blu-ray and put on The Making of The Shining, which is probably on there, directed by Kubrick's daughter. She's just walking around with like almost a home movie camera. There's a great scene in that where Jack Nicholson is with the axe, that scene where they're going to chop down the door, and he's getting into character. He's just going absolutely nuts getting into character. And you mentioned earlier the music. I want to plug another podcast, a podcast called The Art of the Score. They don't have any marketing. They're all word of mouth podcasts.
You told me about it. I listened to it too.
It's 3 Australian guys talking about scores for movies, and they're musicians themselves. It is excellent.
Ooh, that sounds right up my alley.
And they don't talk specifically about The Shining, but they talk about that piece of music because it's an adaptation of what's called a dies irae. It's just a few notes, and you hear it in so many different movies, and they mentioned it earlier. And when it got used for Ready Player One, they go into the Shining movie or whatever, and those notes hit. That's where if they didn't use that, it obviously would have fallen flat. Yeah. But they enter, and then you hear that dun, 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 and you know exactly where you are.
Yeah, man. And for my money, that is easily the. I mean, you guys don't know I don't love that movie, but that is easily the best part of that movie.
It's an unbelievable choice.
Fantastic.
Yeah. To take it from War Games to that, it's apples and oranges as far as like in Ready Player One, they're in the Oasis.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought so. Cool, I thought so. Go to 2 guys. So it's fun. It's a hot vac summer, right? We're all double backs. Matt's got the this is our shot. Sure, show it. Vaccines are great, right?
Sweet.
You know where vaccines are not? In the movie I Am Legend. Because that cancer vaccine turned 99% of the world into zombies. So maybe vax aren't great. Reddit? Hear that, QAnon?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This movie has been circling probably 9 different lists, and I'm happy to use it here, and I'm happy to use it too, guys. It was number 1 on my most memorable movie kills of all time. It's some of Will Smith's finest acting, and I will die on that hill. And it's 2007's I Am Legend. So in that, Will Smith plays Dr. Robert Neville, who is, unbeknownst to him, he believes at the time he's the last man on Earth. Everyone has been turned into mutants, ravaged zombie vampires. And he lives in New York City with his dog, Sam, played by Abby and Kona, played by a 2 set of German Shepherds. And in this, he's trying to put together a serum because his blood is the only blood that is pure of the virus. And if he can somehow extract it and get it mass produced, he could be able to turn these vampires back to humans. And it is based on the Omega Man, and it does differ drastically at some points. And, some people like that movie more. I find this, it's a little bit more popcorn, a little bit more entertaining, but it is Will Smith at his most isolated. And if you like Will Smith, like I love him, and him on screen in every single shot of the film, doing all of the lifting with just a dog, it's exactly what you want. So for this movie, I will watch it regularly. I think it's some of Will Smith's best acting in the fact of one of the scenes I'll go back and watch, is right after Sam's death, when he goes he sets up all the characters throughout the city, and he gives them names, and they're mannequins that he sets up, and they're his friends. So he talks to Fred and talks to people, and he goes over to this one mannequin at the bookstore or at the video rental, and he's pleading, begging with her to talk to him, to say hello. And you're like, that's the breaking point of him. He's lost his only friend, and he is just pleading for anybody else out there. And as the film goes in a third act, you can obviously tell some studio interference kind of led to that. There's a phenomenal alternate ending that the internet proclaims probably the best alternate ending unused on a film. Totally changes the themes, everything of it. And it wasn't used. It was used for a more like Hollywood film ending. And there's, differences between Will and the director and the studio and the writers on this as well, too, on where they wanted to go. But for seeing Will do all the lifting, for some of his best acting, and the idea of the one last man hunting vampires and zombies and such, and it's 2007's I Am Legend.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you picked that. I also love Will Smith.
No doubt.
And it's definitely, it's not one of those movies that I own because it's on TV so often. And
Sure.
when it is on TV, I just let it roll.
It's so rewarding, especially too. And the driving through Times Square and the stuff, and just seeing the dilapidation of the buildings and the decay, and him hitting golf balls off the bridge. And you're just like, oh, there's, CGI. They actually did film in Times Square. They had to shut it down for that. And it's fascinating to see how they did that, and just what society and civilization would be. Now, this is before The Walking Dead, when it emulates the same kind of formula, and it's more mass produced for us because we've seen where that show goes. But at this time, it was an unbelievable view of like an American city in a sort of breakout like this.
Sweet. Yeah. Good pick.
So
Thanks.
With that ends our 3s and 2s. Now we get to our honorable mentions. Okay. Britt, what is on your honorable mention list?
I'm going to keep it super short and sweet. My honorable mentions star Tom Hanks in 2000 Castaway, which I'm pretty sure we saw in theaters. Did we not?
I saw this movie on my birthday in theaters.
Did I?
Oh, so I can't remember because I saw this in theaters. I remember it having an effect on me. And anyway,
my 13th birthday in theaters. My 13th.
I'm gonna watch where you're crying over a volleyball.
This is
there's not too many movies where you're literally crying over a volleyball. I'm like, I remember shedding tears over a volleyball like that. I was like afterwards, after like I thought back about it, I was I was crying over an inanimate.
I believe
object
Wilson
in a
is.
movie.
I believe I proclaimed my
So
love
was
for
Tom
Wilson on the
Hanks.
props episode.
Yeah,
We did.
yeah.
But also, like, and like I said, I was supposed to like just roll through this, but also just like the transformation of his body from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like,
Mack has filmed What Lies
Christian
Beneath
Bale
in between
moves out of
that.
the way.
He
What'd
shot
you say?
and edited What Lies Beneath so Tom Hanks could lose all the weight. He shot a whole nother movie while Tom Hanks ate an apple a day.
There you go. And yeah, so obviously, yeah, like his hair is like blonde from the sun. He has a beard. He's so skinny. It's just, yeah, it's just a fantastic film all around. Next. 4 years later.
It's good. It's a good choice.
Which I know I definitely saw
Isolated
in theaters. And it's certainly it's a lighthearted comedy. I don't fully recommend it. If you do like Tom Hanks, it's worth a shot.
The movie got panned, and I would kill for a terminal like right now. Like they don't make movies like that, and like that movie got destroyed, and it's lovely.
Yeah,
it's so lovely. And that's the thing. It's not a box office banger. It's just like a friendly film starring.
It would be like a lame movie on Netflix now with like I don't know. We wouldn't watch it, but that was a big movie.
It was quirky. It was quirky.
Yeah,
it'd be a 6-episode miniseries on Netflix.
Yeah,
right now, I think.
I'd watch that.
That's true. Yeah.
Do it
again.
All right, Matt, what do you got?
My honorable mentions include what do we got? Castaway.
Good enough to make our honorable mentions.
Yes,
it was originally mine too, and I'm just like, this is the isolated film.
Yeah, right. It's an obvious pick.
Yeah,
and it's Tom Hanks. It's so on brand for my lists, so that's why it makes honorable mentions. And Source Code.
Oh, and lovely.
I have a massive. Okay, I saw this movie in theaters. I have a massive. He just takes over the guy's life. That's not fair.
Well.
That's like my biggest. Like the credits end, and I'm just like, that's horrible. He doesn't know where he works. He doesn't know anybody. I hated the ending.
Directed by David Bowie's son.
That's right. We could probably talk about Source Code another day, but that's not exactly the end of the movie.
All right, we're going to go to my honorable mentions, which of course are both horror. We are going to Scott sniffed one out. That would be The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Basically, just the two of them going crazy in the lighthouse.
They didn't even know they were filming a movie, literally. Willem was like, I'm going to stay with Robert for a few months.
I'll tell you what, it's got some scenes in there that you will not forget as long as you live. It's a pretty great film. I love it. And we're talking about The Cabin in the Woods. This is the pinnacle of Cabin in the Woods movies. That would be Evil Dead 2, which is Sam Raimi's masterpiece.
Why this one and not one?
It is the perfect balance between funny and gory. The first one doesn't have that much laughs. It's literally scary and literally like gory as hell. But then you get to 2 and you get that Ash, which is hilarious, like hilarious Ash. But you still get the crazy gore. You still get the like scares. And then it goes full comedy in Army of Darkness. There's like pretty much zero gore in Army of Darkness. So it goes the spectrum, right? You have like super scary, super gory, and then you have, very super funny, little gore, and right in between you have Evil Dead 2, which has got the best of both worlds in this like perfectly balanced horror comedy that is just fantastic. It's perfect.
Cool. I have a lovely set of honorable mentions, and I'm really happy that these two came together because they are two singular actor starring vehicles. And you know what? For my money, make a pretty good double feature. So if we were to do a double feature episode, I want these two honorable mentions to be done as a double feature. So we're going to be starting with 2015's All Is Lost with my guy, the King, Robert Redford in it. Guys, let's put Robert Redford. 78 years old. Let's put him through hell in this film. He plays a sailor who's on a boat, and it's hit into by a shipping container. And as the movie goes, it's him struggling for survival on it and on life rafts. And it's very bright. It takes place at sea and all this stuff. And it's all about hope. And without When You Lose Hope, All Is Lost is the title of the film from the
I've not seen that one.
It's incredible. It's not rewatchable in any sense. I watched it once. I watched clips again to prep for it, and it's a lovely film.
Is that on Prime?
That's the title, though. So then, does he lose hope?
I don't know. You got to watch.
Is hope lost?
I will leave. We spoiled a lot of endings. I will keep that one.
I haven't watched it. So
it's not anything I saw. I had to use my site to get it today. So I want to shout out my king Robert Redford, as well as on the downside of that movie's very bright. It's set on water. We're going to go with another movie that's very dark, set underground. And that's 2010's Buried with Ryan Reynolds. Fantastic. So that's a double feature I'm doing right now. In the first one, Robert Redford is the only person in the cast. The one thing about that movie too, 30 pages of scripts, there's 51 words. It is a very silent film. It's a lot of body acting by Redford. In this, it's Ryan Reynolds, he is taken captive. It's very Hitchcockian. It's set in the one shot inside. He's buried underground. And he has a cell phone, and through it, he is calling people, trying to figure out what happened and replacing his steps on how he got there. So that makes a lovely double feature, and they are both isolated, like I said, water and in ground.
I was trying to figure out how they could sustain that movie for a full feature length, because I was like, how are you going to have this where it's literally like, it's even in like darkness, complete black, and you just hear voices for a lot of that. I was like, how are they going to sustain this for an entire feature length?
The whole snake scene is like 20 minutes in darkness, but it's all tension. They really triple down on tension in that. And there's some plot holes in it and some weird things as well too as it goes. But like I said, it's a captivating one-man play. It's Ryan Reynolds at the time when he's like, I can do a lot. And he hasn't really come close to this, but he uses his best skills in a perfect lane for it. So that was where he achieved some really good dramatic acting as well too.
That's a great pick. I totally didn't even think about that movie. It's way to go.
Me neither, because no.
Just no. Are you claustrophobic? Brett, are you claustrophobic?
I mean, for a whole movie, maybe. I think what bothered me the most is that he has like a BlackBerry and he just can't get connected.
There's a lot of that. Yeah, I think he has one lighter, and 2010. I think it was a BlackBerry.
Yeah. For me, I guess like that was the most. The interesting part of the film, because I was selling phones at the time.
This one saved Ryan Reynolds' life.
Did it though?
Yeah,
I thought
if you get trapped underground, buried alive, this will save your life.
Oh,
all right,
man.
All right.
We're at our number ones.
Let's do
this. Yes,
I'm excited.
Yeah, let's get this over with. No, okay, sorry.
I'm having a great time. Let's keep
going. Stuck in this box.
Yeah.
No, I certainly would love to dwell on this film forever and ever and ever, but it won't last that long.
Great.
For my number one, I picked Lost in Translation from 2003, written and directed by Sofia Coppola, starring Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, Giovanna Ribisi, and Anna Faris have some smaller roles in it. With this film, I have a lot of like sentimental and like a lot of just a lot of like sentimental investment in this film. I've been to Japan, so I know what it is like to feel sort of almost like a minority, like in another country, because you stick out, you don't look like everybody else. You don't speak the same language as everybody else, which is very interesting when you go somewhere else, because everything just turns into like a different kind of noise because you don't understand anything that's going on. You know what I mean? It's very easy to ignore. So Bill Murray plays, oh my goodness, I can't remember. I'm blanking out on his name. I just watched the movie this afternoon.
I don't know.
Are we all going to blink? I have it here in my notes. Oh my goodness.
It's Bob Harris.
Bob Harris. Yeah, Bob Harris. Oh my goodness. Who's an actor, a very tall white man, who takes a gig in Japan to make some, extra money on the side. You kind of get the vibe pretty early on that he is very much isolating himself, like he's putting himself on the other side of the world to just hang out in a hotel because he doesn't want to be at home. The best excuse for that is I got to go make money to, to pay for the renovations that my wife wants to do, and he obviously doesn't want to be included in a lot of the hoopla that is like a home renovation. So you get the inkling that like his home life is not, it's privileged, but somewhat stressful, and he's obviously come to do this gig to kind of like, leave all that behind and kind of forget himself. And you see very quickly that it's easy to get bored in a foreign country if you're just hanging out in a hotel all day. As well as Scarlett Johansson, which is, she's not really doing the same thing, but she is very isolated in the same way. She's hanging out in a hotel, just like, I don't want to call it freeloading, she's hanging out in Japan while her husband is working. So she has to go find things to do. And these two characters, Bob and Charlotte, are equally bored and start crossing paths with each other and start to make connections with each other and start to bond and make this friendship. And I would almost say they sort of share their isolation in that sense, going with the theme. And they make friends with each other. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's like a platonic love story.
Yes, which is
there's like kind of hints of love there, but like it's a very platonic. They're both married, but they have this love story that is, not like sexual in any way. It's just,
and that's what makes it great. It's just like they're seeking a friend.
They're intimate. They want like intimacy and friendship. Without the complications of sex or any of that kind of stuff, which is amazing. Like to have that where you have this older man and younger woman who have this connection, and like it's just beautiful.
I agree. I think I wrote it down in my notes. I don't have them in front of me, but I remember thinking like, Sofia Coppola is, check for the PC Optimum deals. Sofia Coppola is she doesn't have a very large stretch of like feature films, but she has a very unique way of organically bringing characters together, and like and even so, like their isolation is very organic and it's very natural. They're very comfortable in who they are and like where they are. It's just it is a foreign place, and so that just sort of like makes things a little bit more challenging to make a connection. But they find each other, like there's that part in the elevator where like they make eye contact in the elevator or whatever, and you can see them form this friendship, which is, in my opinion, like the best kind of a romantic kind of relationship is a platonic friendship. Sure. And they hit the town, have a fun time, do some karaoke, which in my opinion, that could be a whole nother list, karaoke in the movies. But karaoke, I do as like a personal pastime when it's not pandemic. And it's truly a very bonding activity that you do with people that like you trust, you trust to sing with and to be vulnerable with. For sure. And I think that them sort of like curing each other's isolation is very romantic and something to be what's the word? Enjoyed over and over and over again. I think that was my last slide. Sorry. What? Yeah, that was my last slide.
Well, while it's Centauri time.
Yeah, I was going to say, for
again.
3
Centauri
points,
time.
What is the brand of whiskey Bill Murray promotes in Japan?
I was
Centauri.
Like, that is
Centauri whiskey.
That is, I was like, please let that be a question in Movie Trivia Championship. Like, Centauri time.
We spoke about Sofia Coppola, who obviously wrote and directed the movie, and it was heavily based on her own personal life. Mm-hmm. She had spent some time in Japan and felt the uncomfortabilities about it. And it was also somewhat about her own failed marriage with Spike Jonze.
Right.
Giovanni Ribisi plays the companion, the fictional Spike Jonze in that, and then Anna Faris plays the Cameron Diaz, who shows up in their own personal. Yeah.
Wow.
In their own personal. Yes.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know. You got to read the whole thing about it.
It's crazy.
It's like a big thing. It's a big story. Yeah.
I mean, like, I prefer the film, but I love that it does come from somewhere and it's not just this random, like, it makes sense that it would come from somewhere. But yeah, no, it's one of my favorite films ever. I can certainly, relate to being a sort of fish out of water in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super romantic. Oh my goodness.
And it like all of her, like all
I wonder
of her
who the
films,
man was.
Like
I don't care if it was Spike Jonze and Cameron Diaz. Like, who did she kiss?
Maybe it was Bill. That's why they're so close.
In her ear. So she knows what he said?
Well, I don't know if she because didn't Bill Murray ad-lib that?
I think I know what he says. I listened to it like really loud today, and I think I know what he says. I think it's very, very simple.
Sofia Coppola won an Oscar for writing it, which is amazing. Bill Murray was nominated. He was up against Sean Penn, and he was also up against
my daughter in there. If he gets that,
and he was also up against Johnny Depp was nominated that year for Pirates of the Caribbean. Now I watched Pirates of the Caribbean and Lost in Translation like just before the Oscars, so I was on the edge of my seat. It's one of these guys. Come on, Sean Penn. I was like, come on.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That was terrible. I was like,
Clint's Oscar poll.
Yeah,
baby.
that's Sean Penn in Mystic River is rough.
That won both acting awards that year.
That was rough.
Yeah,
lead and supporting.
Yep.
I was gonna say one last thing on about Sofia Coppola's movies. She has amazing soundtracks, and this one is great. It's Kevin Shields from My Bloody Valentine does a bunch of the songs on here. It's a beautiful soundtrack.
Yeah, I agree. It's got some great tracks.
Okay, my number one. We won't need to spend very much time on it because we talked about it earlier today. Is Rear Window. Like I said, I watched it for the first time a few years ago, and I watched it 3 times in a row that night. I love it. It did become my favorite Hitchcock movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one I've seen the most.
Yeah,
I've seen this probably like 5 times.
Agree, concur with that. To Catch a Thief, I watched like for the first time a year and a half ago. That is closely number 2. That was proto James Bond, before it happened.
Hey, if you want to go James Bond, go my number 1, North by Northwest.
It's North by Northwest. The Hitchcock even says he's making a Bond.
That is literally James Bond.
And if you read the Bond book that we own, they brought Hitchcock in to do, I think, Thunderball.
That's right.
And there's a chapter on there that they wanted I think they wanted Thunderball to be the second one, and they wanted Hitchcock to do it. So that's a whole chapter.
All right.
Rear Window. Yep, my number 1, Rear Window.
All right. There will be 2 not very shocked people, maybe 1 shocked person in here when we get my number 1. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. Period. Like this is one of my all-time favorite movies from one of my all-time favorite directors. It is a movie that I've seen very literally hundreds of times. It is from 1982. It is directed by my man John Carpenter. It is The Thing.
No. Of course.
So The Thing.
I'm shocked.
Okay, I'm glad. At least one person is shocked. Okay. This movie has got everything that I want in a horror movie. It is again Snowbound. This is Outpost 31 in Antarctica, U.S. Outpost 31 in Antarctica. That is a research facility which is manned by a bunch of scientists, doctors, and just working stiffs that are there to keep the base running. And there's basically the whole crew right there. And so McCready is played by Kurt Russell. He is a helicopter pilot, and there is a helicopter that crashes after they're shooting at a dog for some reason and blows up. And so they are thrown into this game of paranoia and just general fear. You have a bunch of grown men, and so I've heard criticism that there were no women in this movie, and to me, I think that it plays better with all men because you get the testosterone.
Sure.
This group of all testosterone, and they're all turning on each other. They're all trying to be the alpha. There's guys that are vying to be the alpha male. With it, and then there's the guys that are taking the beta, and there's the whole thing, the whole dynamics between all the guys. And one of the great things about this film is that all of the characters in this film are all fleshed out. There are no two-dimensional characters in here. These all feel like real men in a real situation. None of them feel superhuman or like they're action heroes. These feel like real guys that are thrown into this mix, and get Kurt at the end doing his action kind of thingy, but it still feels like a man, an ordinary man that's thrown into a terrible situation. And you've got they find the spaceship where the thing came out of, and it's just a great scene where they find the Norwegians have dug this thing out of the ground. Then they go to the things, and it's got, for my money, some of the best special effects in any movie ever. Full stop, by Rob Bottin, who just creates these incredible. Like, you watch this is from 1982. You're talking that's almost 40 years ago, and it still looks real. It still looks very much like it's an actual thing, and it's just disgusting. And it all culminates to one of the top horror scenes of all time, which is the blood test, where you want to talk about a tense, incredible scene. They check everybody's blood, and that's how they figure out who is the thing. It is an incredible scene, one of my top scenes of all time. Just amazing. I
gotta know what happens.
No, the unbelievable last 10 minutes. Unbelievable last 10 minutes of this film.
Seen the thing.
I know about the thing, and I'm familiar with it, and I haven't seen it for obvious reasons.
Okay. Please.
But I feel like
watch it.
I'll do a movie night with Tyler and see if I can, just because I'll probably need someone there.
You will, because it is. I would say it is like there's some scary stuff. There is some disgusting, like I said, the horror effects. The horror effects are so like I said, realistic and gory and goopy. Like my favorite like horror effects are like the goopier the better. Give me all the goop, and it has got some goop in there. So it's
I don't want the goop. I don't mind the stuff that looks like animatronics, and I have
there's some of that in there.
Appreciation for that kind of like the actual special effects where they had like a creative department craft things together and like use different types of effects and animations rather than like full on, because this is, like you said, 1982, so it's before these studios had access to like computer animation and like
there is zero
generating images
in there. This is 100% practical, and it looks it is,
which makes it even creepier and grosser.
When you watch the behind the scenes stuff and you see how they do certain things, it is incredible. One of my favorite behind the scenes docs is watching how Rob Bottin comes up with his like insane special effects. It's the best. And to think, like we've talked about in other episodes, this came out in 1982 and completely bombed in the box office because of E.T. It was, basically like almost ruined John Carpenter's career, and he basically had to take a different direction in what he was doing filmmaking, which, for better or for worse, took him down a different path, which is fine. But like this almost, ruined his career, and it's like now considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It's amazing. And I forgot to mention it's a remake from the 50s, but I mean, who cares about that 50s one? But it's Howard Hawks, so it's really good too, actually.
Okay.
Hey, so my number one forever. I went big.
There's a lot of snow.
I went big. Yeah, snow again.
It's getting cold.
That's the thing. Like when I think about like being isolated, when I think about even in the winter, when the winter gets really bad, we get in snowstorms. I just don't want to leave the house. Like I don't want to go out in it, and so like snow is one of those things where it's just like intrusive. Like I just don't want to be out in the snow. So like it's one of those things where they get into the thing a lot where they're like, we can't take the helicopter up because it's too crazy, the snowstorm. But yeah, I love snowbound horror.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Okay, bring us home here, guys. During quarantine, we were all lonely. Nobody was more lonely than the loneliest, most popular man in the world, and that's Truman Burbank. It's coming back. It was on AB's 98 list. I was so happy. I was so happy you were able to use it. It's one of my all-time favorite films as well, too. I'm glad that you talked about it and talked about most. I'll mainly just touch on the fact, I actually just had a Twitter debate on the most likable person in hockey. And there was a few people, and some people kind of settled on something. I thought somebody different, but I think unanimously, you could probably say that Jim Carrey's Truman Burbank is maybe the most likable character ever in film. Like he just 100% approval rating from people inside his world, outside of the world, and then us as the viewer as well too. Just being incredibly likable, written well, written three-dimensional. It was a really big film for Jim Carrey, kind of taking only 4 years removed, essentially, from one of the biggest debut years of all time when he does Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura all in the same year. And then, commands a ton, probably 20 million for Batman Forever. And then he's off to Ace Ventura 2 for about 25. So he's the biggest star. So he says, I want something I can sink my teeth in. And he follows this with the Majestic, and he goes Man on the Moon and tries to get a little bit more of the awards fodder. For this is one of his best shots for it. It was incredibly ahead of its time. Like you said, Big Brother airs summer 2000. 2 years removed from this. And then, once the internet really takes accessibility, they start doing the 24/7 feeds where you can watch them no matter what. And clips like that, they have different cameras all set up around. So super ahead of its time. You get some wonderful Ed Harris playing like the stand-in for God in it, and some really nice religious undertones, which are very interesting. You could watch the film for what it is, or you could look at the psychological and the emotionally charged faith side of the thing. And there's a great discussion to be had in that. But again, for the beautiful final shot that you didn't want to spoil, but I feel most people can connect the dots on that. But it's a wonderful, and how it sets the water story and kind of how they play the elements with them as well too, makes for an incredible, and the music, the score, it swells and everything. And ultimately, we like the society. The people who are watching the show feel the same way, and we're cheering and we're excited for Truman's success. So brilliant movie. It was unbelievable. I'm glad we've been able to extend and talk about it a little more. So my number one as well too is the isolation of Truman Burbank in The Truman Show.
Nice. I like that we think alike on that one.
No, we do.
An absolute historic Oscar snub for Jim Carrey. Didn't even get nominated.
Yeah,
not just
and that was a really great point. Yeah.
No, it got three. It got director, supporting actor, and something else I saw. So it was like
and screenplay. Ed Harris got a nomination for best.
Yeah, okay. It's just I think Carrey.
Forget that.
But nominated, but like bullshit. He lost his Shakespeare in Love.
It was just a really weird, ahead of its time. It was very smart, and I don't know what Carrey did. Maybe they just weren't ready to put his eggs in that basket. Is that weird time. It's definitely, it's released now. It's a Golden Globe darling. And then it's going to be like, the guy like Rami Malek can win. This is 100. Like, that's what I mean. It's just 100 times more, comedic, likable, and challenging.
He was Jim Carrey. He did back-to-back Golden Globes, this and then Man on the Moon. And when he was doing press for Man on the Moon, I saw him on a talk show. And the host, I forget what it was. It doesn't matter. They were saying you got snubbed for The Truman Show. And he's like, yeah, I think you're right. And for Man on the Moon, they can't make that same mistake twice. And then they did. No nomination for Man on the Moon either.
Which is insane because especially when you
there must have been something.
Watch Andy, and when you watch Jim and Andy, the amount of like work that he put into that movie is literally insane. Like people were calling him insane because of how much he put into that role. And it's like, come on.
He still talks back to that role. Like that role has affected his career ever since.
That and the Grinch. If you hear, he apparently lost a few screws on the set of the Grinch in 2000. He went full crazy in that film too. So maybe not nice behind the scenes. On camera, 90s, there was nobody better. Biggest star of the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's he's in the top 3.
You reminded me that like Ed Harris was nominated for the same film and Jim Carrey was not, and like that in itself is a traumatic snub that Ed Harris has like no lines in that film.
Can go cry about it in their millions, in their mansions with their.
It just again like adds to my hate for the Oscars in general. Like,
it's weird.
Like it's gone on since I was a kid, and just things getting snubbed since basically for my entire life, starting with Star Wars being snubbed for Annie Hall.
Take us out, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
That is our list. Coming up on our next list, our top 5 Oscar snubs.
I would love that.
Are you doing that?
No, we're not doing that. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to give the Oscars any more than they already have.
That's true. There'd be a lot of airtime.
So that's the end of our list, the list portion of our show. Did you like what we listed? Do you have your own list? Let us know in the comments. For sure, we would like to know all about that kind of stuff. Thank you, Brittany, for being on the show. Mm-hmm. But the show does not end here. We go into the Mack Flash draft portion of the show. The title card here is up as we wait. I'm not waiting. I'm bringing it down for Scott and Jersey Jim to make their appearances. Jim is in the green room, but his camera doesn't seem to be working.
I think he just probably turned it off.
Now, normally we do the wheel for topics, but last time Brittany was on, she suggested as a topic Keanu Reeves movies, and it didn't get selected. So we just figured since she's here, that'll be the topic. We're going to draft our 5. I mean, it's not, you can't say we're going to draft our 5 favorite Keanu Reeves movies because the chances are we won't get all 5 that we want, and that's the whole point. I feel
like we have a lot of similar favorites.
Yes, but we will be drafting 5 Keanu Reeves movies, and recently we did Harrison Ford. I'm not sure if we recorded that one, but it certainly ended up on the Mack Flash Facebook page for voting. And the same rules for that one will apply here. It's well documented that Keanu Reeves has 3 very successful franchises under his belt. But if we select a movie from those franchises, the other movies in it will be nullified. So, I mean, spoiler alert, Bill and Ted, The Matrix, John Wick, heavy favorites. If one of those movies is selected from any of those trilogies, the remaining 2 cannot be selected.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
It's Jim's camera flickering there for a second.
Well, you can bring him in. Or bring him into... Jim, where you at?
I'm here. Maybe I just don't want to be seen right now.
Oh, sneaky.
No, I'll turn on the camera. I'm just going to watch this one, though, guys. You guys have had this, I think. Hopefully Britt kicks all your asses, but because I certainly can't seem to, although I actually finished second or third on a couple of them, so thankfully I got out of the dead last place. So
what was our, as of this recording, what was the topic? It was a music one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. If I'm not mistaken, we haven't posted.
No, he hasn't posted that one yet.
Oh,
he hasn't posted in a while.
Okay, so Jim, you're out for this one.
Yes, I'll just watch.
Okay. Okay, so I took your name out. We're going to spin the wheel to find which
who's picking first.
Who's picking first? So we're going to spin.
Come on, stop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've got some ones that I feel like you guys haven't even seen. So.
Okay.
This is your category, so I would assume. Number 2.
Oh, Mack gets number 2.
I haven't picked high in forever, man.
Okay. Brittany, and
awesome. I'm in a good spot.
Scott is lat. Yeah, I was hoping to get 4. Actually.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, with that, and we're in the order here: AB, myself, Brittany, and Scott in clockwise fashion. AB will get to pick first.
This is tough.
One is insane. It's so tough.
Well, what do I go? All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go The Matrix.
I wrote that down for you. That was my guess. I wrote it down. I'm like, oh, you're gonna go loyalty.
I hate the Matrix trilogy, which but I mean, how can you not love the Matrix, right? Like the first Matrix.
The Matrix, sure, but I think Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Bogus Journey, and even Face the Music on average would certainly defeat the whole trilogy, if not just The Matrix, as far as
Great. What's your number 2 choice?
Yeah.
Is this me now?
Yeah.
Oh, that was your pick? You took Excellent Adventure?
Of course I did.
Okay.
I'm winning with that one.
Damn. You guys took the best ones off the top of the deck.
That's usually how that works.
I had Excellent Adventure ranked 6th.
Okay. I'm going to go with The Devil's Advocate.
Okay.
Oh my God. No, we'll get to. Are you sure you don't want to know this? This is unbelievable. Am I going back to back? And am I doing John Wick and Speed?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's huge.
Don't hurt yourself.
That is huge.
Pop quiz, hot shot. What do you got next?
Fine. You know what? I'm just going to take the other Charlize Theron movie and call it a Sweet November.
Okay.
That would definitely get votes for sure. Okay. Oh, I got Point Break. Is my number 2.
I wanted it at 5. I didn't think I was gonna get. Yeah.
Guys, I'm loving my picks right now. I am going to go with Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, but well.
Followed by shoot, what was my other pick here? I gotta look for my other pick here. Shoot. I'm gonna go a little weird with this one. I mean, it's not that weird. It's not that weird, guys. I gotta go with my guy Duke Kaboom.
Yeah, okay.
Toy Story 4.
Great choice.
And make sure that the poster has Duke Kaboom in it, because
you bet. I make good PowerPoints.
Oh yeah, I've got 3 good ones here. I am going to pick Hardball for my number 3.
It's a solid one.
Nice.
Can I pick Paula Abdul's music video?
That's funny.
It is a great video. That is a great video.
I love that song so much. No? Okay. I think I will go with Johnny Mnemonic.
That's a great one. I love that movie.
Hardball's great. I really wanted to double it up on a sports one. I'm going to go with The Replacements.
Yeah, it was that. It's like if AB picked Hardball, I was going Replacement.
And I have a really tough choice here. So I'm like, I have a lot, and I don't know I don't know how his two-hander vehicle is going to perform with votes. So if I want votes, there's 2 movies I could really take here. But I'm going to go with one that I thought AB was going to take there. But I'm going to go with Constantine.
Yeah.
I hate Constantine. I would never take.
You know what? I remember. Yeah,
really.
I watched it recently, or tried to, and I couldn't get through it.
Maybe I'll live and die by that pick. But
I ruled that one out early on.
Same. I'm like, you're gonna give me non-British John Constantine? No thanks.
So wait, I can't pick Paula Abdul's music video.
No.
Just come right back around. What did I pick if I didn't pick
your
that?
picks are Devil's Advocate, Sweet November, and Johnny Mnemonic.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah, that was another one I liked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Damn. I thought I had. I'm gonna take the Lake House.
Will you?
Yeah.
Please? Because I don't want it.
That was the one I was debating between Constantine. It was a huge hit.
Okay, so these are my last 2 picks here.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to. I'm gonna go a little niche just because this is a killer movie, and I don't know how many votes it's gonna get me, but it's an amazing movie. It's My Own Private Idaho.
That was the other one. I had it ranked really high, but I'm like, does anyone?
It's not gonna give me any votes, but I don't care.
Great for 4 or for 4 or 5.
Yeah. And this is my niche, super niche vote. I'm taking this strictly because I love this movie, and this will get me like maybe 1 vote. What is it?
Say it.
Freaked.
Oh no, I had Scanner Darkly written.
No, Scanner Darkly I saw there, but I love Freaked.
Okay,
Freaked
great.
is amazing.
Scanner Darkly was on my list. I want to go with this is not the official pick. I wanted to pick Keanu,
Yeah.
where he voices the cat.
The cat voiced the cat.
Because I think people, maybe enough people have seen that and be like, oh, that's terrific and funny. You know what? I'm going to take Keanu.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, you can.
That's my list of 5.
I'll use the cat.
Darn. Okay. Johnny Mnemonic. What was the last one I said? Sorry.
Oh, you have Something's Gotta Give as your last one.
Something's Gotta Give was my last one. Darn it all. Like I want to go like super niche.
Ooh.
But I know it's not going to help me. So this would just put me on the board as like a hardcore OG fan.
Yeah, fan.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with the film Flying.
Yeah.
From 1986.
Okay.
It's one of his first films.
Hey, I got a few. Gosh.
Despins, if you don't pick Youngblood, I'm gonna be pissed off at you.
No, that's it. It's that or Scanner Darkly. But Youngblood will get me votes. But I'm dumb. Youngblood will get me some votes. So I'm gonna go Youngblood.
Good man.
So, to conclude, AB finishes with The Matrix, Dracula, Toy Story 4, My Own Private Idaho, and Freaked.
Ooh.
Matthew ends with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Point Break, Hardball, The Lake House, and Keanu.
Oh, I like mine. Yeah.
I like yours.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about Bill and Ted, but that's great. That's really good.
I feel like
That's
even
good.
with Keanu at the end, just the symbolism of like the movie, it's just very direct.
Britt has The Devil's Advocate, Sweet November, Johnny Mnemonic, Something's Gotta Give, and Flying. And then I have John Wick, Speed, The Replacements, Constantine, and Youngblood.
You gave yourself
The top three gives you chills, man. John Wick, Speed, and The Replacements. It's like the Tigers pitching staff in 2012. Just aces.
Sports.
Cool. That's fun, guys. I'll get that up. It'll be posted in November.
Awesome.
Or whenever this. I think this one might actually land near Brittany's birthday.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
Very
which
cool.
is late August 20th.
yeah.
Cool.
So with that, we've done our lists. We've done our drafts. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Jim, for showing up. Thank you, Brittany, for being on this episode. AB, Scott, I'm Matt. We'll see everybody next time.